This is a demo flash talk based on a presentation I gave at the UC Merced Parents Weekend in fall of 2023. So I'm going to deliver it to you as though you were families in the audience. My name's Dan Hicks. I'm non-binary and use they, them pronouns, and I'm a professor in the philosophy department here. I'm going to give you a quick overview of my research, and then I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. The title of my presentation is Fighting About Science, Expertise, and Democracy. I study public scientific controversies, ranging from air pollution and climate change to vaccines and queer identities. In issues like these, science has made a kind of promise to the rest of society. It will provide an objective, factual basis for good public policy, and so we don't need the messiness of politics to deal with these issues. We can simply turn things over to the experts. This way of thinking about the role for science and democracy goes back to World War II and the Cold War. Physics didn't just invent the atomic bomb, there was also technology like radar and jet aircraft, and physicists even played a major role in the logistics of the Berlin airlift at the dawn of the Cold War. This role for expertise became even more important in 1970, with the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency. But the reality of science and politics is the exact opposite of this promise. We fight over the science as much as anything else. My question is, why? Why can't science settle these kinds of issues? To try to understand this mismatch between the promise and the reality, I work in an interdisciplinary field called the history, philosophy, and social studies of science. You maybe haven't heard of us, but we're the people who study how and why science works. Just like a biologist might study the behavior of a pride of lions, we study the behavior of the biologists. I'm not a historian of myself, but they use records of the past to understand the origins of our present situation. They ask, how did we get here? How is the present shaped by the past? My primary field is philosophy. We use concepts like ethics, justice, logic, and evidence to investigate why science has been so successful and question what separates good from bad science. I'm also a social scientist and spent a few years working as a data scientist. Here we want to ask who does science, why they do it, and who actually benefits. Here's an example. Counties that voted for Biden in 2020 have higher rates of COVID-19 vaccination. And as a result, Trump voting counties have had significantly higher death rates over the last couple of years. You might just say, of course, Democrats are pro-vaccine and Republicans are anti-vaccine. But there's got to be more to the story. Remember that the development of the COVID-19 vaccine, less than a year after the pandemic started, was a major accomplishment of the Trump administration. Trump was actually mad that the vaccines weren't approved until after the 2020 election. On the other hand, not too long after coming into office, the Biden administration started to prioritize the economy over public health and roll back a lot of COVID policies. It's also important to remember that Democrats and Republicans aren't just big blobs of identical people. Even in counties that went overwhelmingly for Trump, about half of the people got vaccinated. And there are plenty of counties that went for Biden, but have fewer than 75% vaccinated. So let's take a closer look at some factors that predict whether someone gets vaccinated. On the right, you can see there are small differences in racial and ethnic groups, along with small differences between Democrats and Republicans that isn't explained by other factors. One major factor is financial. People living in deep poverty are about 20% less likely to be vaccinated than wealthy people. This might be due to lack of access to a clinic or a drugstore to get the vaccine, or it might be due to concerns about having to pay for the vaccine. In 2021 and 22, the vaccine was free for everyone, but pharmacies would still ask for insurance, creating confusion. Then we get to two factors I find really interesting: trust in the CDC and perceptions of the risk or threat posed by COVID-19. Just those two factors make you 50% more likely to get the vaccine. This means that science can't settle the politics of vaccination because a key factor in the controversy is whether you think scientists are trustworthy. Finally, a little preview of my next few research projects. First, I'm going to be conducting some survey research of public perceptions of values in science and how these perceptions shape our trust in science. A lot of distrust in science seems to be wrapped with cynicism about science, that scientists don't care about the truth, that they're willing to say whatever people pay them to say. I want to develop a good way of measuring the cynicism on surveys. Second, I'm going to use a data science technique called text mining to look at public comments on a proposal that the Environmental Protection Agency put forward in the Trump era. This proposal was highly controversial, with nearly 1 million comments submitted by everyone from lobbyists to the public. Text mining will allow me to sift through all of those comments and test some hypotheses. I mention these projects because I'll be hiring a student researcher to work with me starting in January 2024. This will be a paid position, though probably only minimum wage. Thank you.